if they are not changing the mindset of the citizens, we might experience a lot of challenges around Gauteng. But today we are here for Johannesburg. Residents of Johannesburg have been experiencing increasingly frequent interruptions to their daily water supply, ranging from 4 to 18 days. We have received a lot of complaints, concerns from residents in various areas of Johannesburg. This causes great hardship for residents and is an impediment to economic growth to the city. Yesterday, Sunday the 10th, the Minister of Water and Sanitation, Ms. Pemmy Majodina, convened an urgent meeting to address challenges of water in the city of Johannesburg. The meeting was attended by Gauteng Premier Mr. Sufi, the Deputy Minister of Water and Sanitation, Deputy Minister Matlobo, and Deputy Minister Sihlulo, the Executive Mayor of Johannesburg, the MEC for Kokta, Mr. Jacob Mamabulo, as well as the Rand Water, the City Power, and Johannesburg Water. The meeting reached unanimous agreement on the causes of water supply interruptions and what needs to be done to restore a stable water supply to the residents of Johannesburg. Ladies and gentlemen, Johannesburg Water, which is an entity of the city, buys treated water from Rand Water and supplies it to the residents of the city. Rand Water, in turn, buys water untreated from us as the Department of Water and Sanitation. Rand Water abstracts raw water from the integrated Vaal River system, which consists of 10 interconnected dams, including major dams such as Vaal Dam, Sterkfontein Dam, and the Katse Dam and Mohali Dams in Lesotho. Rand Water treats the raw water so that it meets the drinking water quality standards. Rand Water stores bulk storage reservoirs and pumps it into municipality reservoirs. That is the value chain of water. From the municipal storage reservoir, the water either flows under the force of gravity or it is pumped through various distribution pipelines to the households and industries across the city. To ensure a continuous, reliable supply of water to users, even in times of drought, the Department of Water and Sanitation set a limit on the amount of raw water that Rand Water is allowed to abstract annually from the integrated Vaal River system. The limit currently for Rand Water to supply water in Gauteng is 1,802 million cubic meters of water per annum. The demand for water in Johannesburg has grown and continues to grow as a result of economic growth as well as population growth. The Department of Water and Sanitation anticipated this growth in demand and put in place the plans to address it as back as 1980 through the Lesotho Highland Water Project, which supplies additional water into the integrated Vaal River system from the Katse and the Mohale dams built in the mountains of Lesotho. The first phase of this Lesotho Highland Water Project was completed in 2003 and delivered 780 million cubic meters of water into the integrated Vaal River system per year. Construction of the second phase was delayed and it's going to deliver 400 million cubic meters of water per annum into the integrated Vaal River system from the new Podihadi Dam in Lesotho, which the project has commenced in 2022 and is due to be completed in 2028. In anticipation of the completion of the second phase of the Lesotho Highland Water Project, in 2028, Rand Water is implementing 35 billion 5-year rolling capital work programs, which includes increasing both storage capacity and water treatment capacity. To date, Rand Water has increased the capacity of the Zeker-Bosch water treatment plant to 150 million liters per capita per day at a cost of 3.5 billion. Rand Water is planning to implement further upgrades at the Zeker-Bosch water treatment plant to increase its capacity by a further 450 million liters per day by 2028. Ladies and gentlemen, the amount of water that Rand Water can abstract from the system is not being affected by the current closure of Lesotho Highlands Tunnel that is under maintenance. The Vaal Dam is currently approximately sitting at 33% full. And media houses have been asking me about this question to say there is no water in the Vaal Dam. I want to confirm here today that the Vaal Dam is sitting at 33%. Be that as may, that water is enough. It is only when the water is at 18% that we are going to release from other dams in the system to fill up the Vaal Dam. And we have water that is more than enough at Sterkfontein Dam to increase the amount of water in the Vaal Dam. Rand Water is already abstracting water from the integrated Vaal River system at the limit set by the Department of Water and will not be able to abstract any more water until the second phase of the Lesotho Highlands Water Project is completed to provide additional water. The Rand Water is therefore not able to supply any more to the municipalities of Gauteng that is currently supplying, because the water that is abstracted at the moment is enough. As I've been saying, that what we are going through in Gauteng and all level municipalities of Gauteng, it is self-inflicted pain by municipalities where they were unable to do the necessary things, that is to operate their reservoirs and water resource as well as maintenance. The main underlying cause of water supply disruption in Johannesburg is therefore at the peak demand for water is close to and occasionally exceeds the available supply from Rand Water. The demand-supply relationship for treated water in Johannesburg is very tight and the system is vulnerable, and distributions caused by electromechanical breakdown or spikes in demand caused by heat waves. In addition to the completion of the second phase of the Lesotho Highlands Water, the meeting agreed that City of Johannesburg must reduce the leaks in its water distribution system and complete its current projects to construct more reservoirs and pumping stations to make its water distribution system more resilient to electromechanical breakdowns or spikes in demand. In 2023, our no-drop report said the department has since observed that Johannesburg is going through the non-revenue water, which stands now at 48.3%. And that includes physical loss, unaccounted water, illegal connections, as well as tankering. This is far above the international norm. Reducing water losses requires a multi-pronged approach by the city, including, amongst others, improving billing and revenue collection, to increase the funds available for maintenance and to provide better incentives for water to be used efficiently, improving pressure management, replacing aging pipes which burst frequently, and installing water meters and replacing dysfunctional bulk and customer water meters so that water flows can be measured accurately to determine the location of these losses. We are going to request to all citizens, when city technicians go across the streets to check the leaks, they must allow them inside their households to ensure that they get the leaks and close the leaks. But they are going to do proper identification, because we do know that at that period, even people who know nothing about water might come and take their chances. Johannesburg Water presented the measure which is implementable, which include, amongst others, throttling of water supply between 9 p.m. and 4 a.m. This is in line with our restriction on level 1. To enable the reservoirs to level to recover overnight. If they don't do that, the reservoirs might not be able to fill up. So we're doing that overnight. The city intends to implement this continuously from the 14th of November until the system is fully recovered. Secondly, procurement of a panel of contractors for emergency repairs of large diameter pipe leaks, and as well as increasing the number of teams on standby during the week to attend the leaks and burst even during weekends. Increasing the number of repair and maintenance teams on duty during the weekend with the aim of improving leak repair responses, the time which is going to be a turnaround of 48 hours to 24 hours. Increasing the number of trucks available to its leak repair and maintenance teams. To implement the cut-offs of illegal connections in key informal settlements. Implementing advanced pressure management system, including the installation of 45 smart pressure controllers, that is to reduce the valves, in addition to the 15 which have been refurbished already by the city. Accelerating leak detection. To date, 12,100 kilometers water pipelines have been surveyed and 2,396 burst pipes, 6,727 leaking meters, 442 leaking valves, and 259 leaking hydrants were identified and repaired. So these are some of the contributors which led to water disruptions. This intervention has provided an estimated water demand reduction of 9,457 million liters per annum. Working with the National Treasury to put in place public-private partnership for the reduction of non-revenue water, to mobilize the private sector funding and expertise for reducing the non-revenue water. The meeting noted and strongly supported the approval by the Johannesburg City Council of a turnaround strategy for water, especially for Joburg Water. The turnaround strategy includes ring-fencing of revenues from the sale of water for the water function, because more than often, municipalities use sales of water for any other thing except to invest it back to the water infrastructure, as well as creating single point of accountability for the water function in the city. This intention is to give Joburg Water control over the functions related to managing water supply in the city so that it can be held accountable. Even after the second phase of the Lesotho Highlands, that a project that I've alluded to, Gauteng long-term water consumption will need to be carefully managed, because there are limits to which further phases of Lesotho Highland water or other water transfer projects can continue to provide additional water to Gauteng at an affordable cost. In 2023, the Northrop found that the average consumption, as I've said, is 279 per capita per day. This is 60% above average of 173 per capita per day, which is an international standard, which is anomaly, given that South Africa is a water-scarce country with limited sustainable water resources and amongst the top 30 countries globally. To address this, the Department of Water, Rand Water, the provincial government, and all the municipalities in Gauteng are working together with civil society with the leadership in various sectors, business leaders, as well as experts, to implement a large-scale communications and awareness campaign regarding the need to use water more sparingly. The meeting noted that an independent body called Platform for Water Secure Gauteng has been established to manage this campaign, and that as a first step, a dashboard has been created by the Department of Water and Sanitation website to provide the public with detailed information on the status of water supply in Gauteng. Gauteng has no drought. We are not in a drought situation in Gauteng. Yes, we are in a crisis. The crisis that is caused by lack of maintenance of the water infrastructure, illegal connections, water tankering. However, given the commitments that we agreed upon yesterday, we can turn around the situation and people of Gauteng are going to have water if they can also adhere to restriction level 1. We urge communities to report vandalism of water infrastructure. The political leadership in the 3 spheres of government are confident that these measures will be when implemented, will have a good turnaround plan and strategy. With necessary, if we can implement them with necessary urgency, will change the situation in Gauteng and in Johannesburg City. We agreed that similar meetings will be held every Sunday morning. We'll be holding these meetings to ensure that we do assessment of the past week to check if communities have not been adversely affected by water shortages. I wish to make this clarion call that this goes to all of us who are water users. The user pay principle must be adhered to by all of us. Even if you think that you have been overbilled, you must pay your obligation, pay water whilst you are making your own queries and taking the matter up with the city. But if you don't pay and you leave your account to accumulate interest, it also impacts negatively on the accounts of municipality. We also want to urge the communities to report the leaks wherever they see them, report those who are vandalizing the water infrastructure, but don't pass a leaking tap, close the leaking tap. Let us join hands to overcome this challenge. The challenge is there, but if we adhere to what I've said here, we might have water throughout the year in Gauteng. But if we don't, we might enter into a disaster stage. At the moment, they are still on restriction level 1. We are not yet on 2 and 3. I heard some media reports that Gauteng is on level 3. We have not as yet reached that stage, but we do think that with this that we have put in place, we're going to turn the situation around, and wish to apologize to all residents of the city of Johannesburg that they've been subjected to disruptions and they were unable to access water. We do believe that water as a human right must be accessed at all times, and therefore our people must use water sparingly. I thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much, Minister. We'll now take questions from members of the media. Let's have the first 6 hands and then move to the second round. Thank you very much. Lunga number 1, Melian Guardian. 2, 3, 4. We have 4, 5. You are 4, 5. Can I assume that's it for the first round? 5? 5 hands. Thank you. Move.
Thank you very much. My name is Lunga from the Median Guardian. I think it was last year, Chairman, when I think the guy was Eric Kwat from Rainwater was speaking about the issue of high temperature being the cause of the water restrictions and all that. Minister Sengom said the same, that the issue was the issue that people were migrating out and the issues of high temperatures that were causing this. But when you look at it now, we are not really in SAM. How is the department, the city, the province, and everyone involved going to deal with this challenge? Because we're not yet in the peak of SAM. So how do you plan to deal with that? And also, I think the Johannesburg Council chairman approved I think it was a motion last year where it said to acquire water from different sources. So you were talking about water wells, and you were talking about, they said it would add about 45% of the water into the city's already water that is there. How far is that? And with the issues of leaks, I think it was 51% that the municipality was losing the water at that time. And that was last year in October, because that was when summer was still happening. So I just want to know, how far have you, with all those plans that you put last year, how far are you with that? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. My name is Sandra Moleko from the Sunday Times. Minister, my question to you today is, has the department conducted a thorough study or analysis of the impact of climate change on water resources? And do you have any strategies to mitigate against these challenges? Thank you very much.
That?
Monica Mopali from Newsroom in Africa. I'm curious, I think this is to both the Minister and the Mayor, in regards to the restrictions that we put in place, the level 1 and 2. Apart from them being restricted, I think the question is then, so what? Have you seen residents getting fines? Have you seen any kind of an accountability process that happens when you break these restrictions? It's not enough to simply say, don't water your garden at midday, but what happens if I do? What are you going to do about it? And then on the same breadth of restrictions, what are we doing about also then government buildings and large corporations that are also not adhering to these water restrictions? I hear us speaking to residents, but I think it does go a bit bigger beyond residents' responsibility. And I do see the panel here, perhaps this is for Joburg water officials that can answer. I see the whole panel here of officials, but we are members of JRA. As a utility, are you aware of the gaping holes across the metro where leaks have been attended to, but it has left these holes all over communities and residents and people's houses where they had to maintain leaks pipes, but they have now literally just left holes that have been left empty for months. When you speak to councillors in certain communities, they say that Johannesburg Water can't attend to this because it's a JRA official. So where are they on the panel, and what does the utility have to say about this shoddy craftsmanship, honestly? Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi there, thanks for organizing this meeting. My name is Julia, I'm from Daily Library. I just wanted to confirm, I think the colleague from Mayor Guardian was also asking, do we have an updated estimate for what percentage of whatever we're losing to the leaks? Because I know we're emphasizing a lot that our consumption is, Joburg's consumption is a lot higher, but is that mostly due to the fact that we're losing water to leaks? And then in terms of the municipalities' debt, could you provide us figures on how much exactly each municipality owes? And then what sort of financial mechanisms or support is the department providing the municipalities to implement the steps you suggested, like building more reservoirs, making the infrastructure more resilient, all that stuff? Because they're clearly struggling, and we've been struggling for years. So how are you going to support them? Yeah, I think that's all.
Thank you. At the back.
Thanks. Minister, I just want to find out, we were emphasizing...
Introduce yourself first.
Oh, sorry. Rod Fitness from Network 24. I just want to find out, we're emphasizing a lot on our clean drinking water and tap water, but another issue which has been quite prominent in recent times is our wastewater plants, where the wastewater isn't processed correctly, and a lot of times it's spilling over into our water resources such as the rivers and dams, and ultimately that's where we then need to source our clean drinking water again. So that's another prong that's contributing to one of these issues. And just what is the department's response on this to rectify this issue? And then secondly, maybe for the Minister and the Premier, just how thinly stretched is our resources now to jump and try and catch up on maintenance work or old pipes that has been bursting or leaking and so forth. And ultimately that resource is now being spent to catch up on this type of stuff. But are there still some proactive measures to ensure that this doesn't happen in the future heading forward?
Thank you very much. The leadership will provide guidance on who takes which question.
No, ke a bona. Ke bona mo gaufi, ke bone kgakala. Premier. Well, let me try and attempt to deal with a few issues on the repairs and the leaks. And we have put in place a program, of course, to continuously repair the leaks and reservoirs. One of the biggest problems we have is actually our reservoirs. 45 of them are not in good state, so it requires us to put additional money to try and deal with our reservoirs. I think we are now sitting at about 11 that we are busy with. We have invested some money to repair those reservoirs, and the reservoirs will then help us to store sufficient water, and we'll be able to mitigate against all interruptions that might be there, and we can continue to guarantee the supply of water to our residents. There's an issue, of course, around our government buildings, which I think we have been working around the clock, especially in the city, to ensure that in our own environment we conserve water as much as possible. Most of our water, we basically use it for drinking and the loo. So to a large extent, we're doing something about it. But we also want to call on residents in the main. We are lucky that the rains have now come in, so there's no need to water your garden with clean water. So we're emphasizing to our residents not to use clean water for watering their gardens. So there should be no use of water pipes or hose pipes to water the gardens. We are also working hard on a pipe replacement program because we have acknowledged that our infrastructure is too old in Johannesburg. Johannesburg is a city established in 1886, and some of our pipes are 50 years and old. So we have to do something with the replacement, and I think we've been trying to do something in that relation. And then there's also questions around, I think it's Julia who asked about our percentage is basically sitting just around 40% and above in terms of our losses, both as a result of illegal connection, leaking pipes, and so on. So it might not necessarily be easy to quantify exactly, but it's around 40%, which is the biggest concern because it means what we buy from Rand Water, we lose 40% of those, and it means we can't recover the revenue from water losses. And hence we took a decision even our Lekgotla this Friday that we are going to prioritize water infrastructure and pump more resources in our adjustment budget in January to help us to. So we're also looking at other funding models and instruments that will assist us to fund the water infrastructure, because now it has become more urgent than ever. So allow us that space in 2025-2026 budget to see if we are indeed investing. The question around what happened last year and where are we now, I think it's Lunga. We took a decision in 2022 as we developed our water demand management strategy. And that strategy we're starting to see some of the results now. As you know that we have to go in and speak to communities because unless you speak to communities, you are not going to win the battle. 2, we had to go into informal settlements, engage communities in informal settlements, to also use the water that we provide, which in fact we are not even recovering any revenue from the water we are supplying in those informal settlements. And there's also a general behavior issue in deemed consumption areas. Orange Farm. So we want to deal with the issue because they're in deemed consumption areas, because they pay a flat rate of some sort into water, and as a result of that, they use water willingly, and they don't have conscious behavioral pattern to say, let's look after this scarce resource that is called water. So we have seen a bit of progress, one in terms of infrastructure. You are aware that we are doing reservoirs. We are also building one of the biggest reservoirs around Brixton, which will ease the pressure in that area. We are also refurbishing 11, which we think by June, July next year would have concluded on the 11 reservoirs, which will help us to manage the water supply much, much better. Minister, I think I've touched, but there's an important issue with National Treasury as it relates to the reforms. I think there was a question around revenue of entities. We are now in a program with National Treasury just around service entities reforms, which is water, electricity, and waste. And there are reforms that we are putting in place so that we ensure that the revenue collected can then be reinvested into those entities to address infrastructure and all other issues. But over and above the illegal connection that we have been dealing with since we implemented this program, I think last week we went very aggressive into those areas. But at times we receive resistance from communities and we don't have the necessary capacity. And that is why we're saying a joint program between JMPD and SAPS will help us a great deal to deal with informal or rather illegal connections and the bypassing of meters. We do have other customers who have the capacity to pay, but they've been bypassing meters throughout Johannesburg, including business entities, and we'll continue to call on them not to bypass meters. But into the future, Minister, I think that we require more innovation in terms of dealing with these issues. And that is why on Friday we said it is not our mandate to go inside the houses of people, but we have made that decision. We are going to go inside, deal with the leaks inside and the taps. We are going to go inside the churches as public institutions. We are also going to schools to ensure that we deal with the leaks. You may find that this 40%, part of it may be attributed to churches and all other public institutions, and hence we have made that decision. We've also made a decision, Minister, that we are going to work with business because we have to change in which the malls utilize water themselves. So we have to have a program with all the big malls that we have in Johannesburg to try and manage water usages even in our malls. We have also said internally, city parks will not continue to water their gardens. Unfortunately, it will affect the grass, but rainwater has always been consistent that it's grass. We should not really worry much about, because the grass has an ability to rejuvenate itself. So we've understood that part. But on a long term, we've agreed with Joburg Water. We're going to look at the model of putting in boreholes so that we can pump water for our gardens at City Power. The same way we took a resolution to research. Work is been done. We are far now. And I think Joburg Water will be ready to give us a final report on the research on groundwater. We are looking at groundwater quantity, especially in the areas of Dorofontein, Ellis Park. There's a lot of water underneath, and they are concluding the research. We're also looking at entering into a contract with Gautrain so that we can then retrieve the water that they always have to drain out, so that we can use that clean water and feed it back into our system. So we are looking at those models. Thank you.
Thank you very much to Your Excellency, Comrade Minister, Babe Swamans Matol, and to Comrade Premier, Comrade Lusufi, Comrade Mamabula, the MEC, Comrade Dada, the Mayor, the MMCs and the Chair of the Board, the DG, the Group CEO, the City Manager. Minister says I should try to answer some questions. Some are beyond Johannesburg. Probably one of the issues that we need to answer is the question that is being said by Lunga from Daily Maverick. Melon Guardian. I can't see my handwriting here. I thought I would be a medical doctor and write like one. One of the things we have done, the Ministry of Water and Sanitation and Minister Majodina has confirmed that she will proceed with the state of water resources in our country through a proper assessment. How are we performing as a country? That's why the introduction of the drop reports, the green drop, the blue drop, and no drop report, it remains an important instrument to say how are we performing as a nation. But it does not only end there. It requires that Water Services Authority, they need to take a number of actions so that they can be able to change course around their own performance. One of the things that we have taken into account, for an example, around the blue drop reports, maybe I'll start with the question, how much water are we losing as a country? As a country, the water that is unaccounted for, non-revenue water, on average, it stands at 47.5%. It's a very highest one as compared to other issues that are happening in the world. Some you know, when you look at the question of non-revenue water, you must look at the advances local government have made over the last 30 years. When we give you statistics, we always say that the country's access to water has reached about 90%. And cities like Johannesburg, access is above 90%. But then there's a question to say, is the water available all the time in terms of reliability? The reliability is a function whether the water flows into the system. In this case, it has dropped in South Africa to about 66 to 67%. In other words, there are people who go for days, for weeks, for months, they don't have water. But there is a tap. And that one is a function of non-revenue water around the availability of infrastructure. That we call it reliability. If, for an example, here in Johannesburg, Comrade Dada loses about 48.3%. When he loses 48.3% in terms of non-revenue water, Minister has said that his actual fiscal losses on the infrastructure, there are illegal connections, even the water that you get through tankering, you don't account for it. Therefore, if we give Comrade Dada about 1.6 billion liters, that's what Rainwater gives them a day. And close to 50% is going to the ground. In other words, he has about close to a billion. And if that billion was made available, in other words, citizens will have an assurance of supply around probably 70, 80, 90% all the time. But the difference today is that the minister and the premier, they are providing leadership. Because one of the problems is leadership. They work on the weekends, they do all these things. The Premier himself, he has said, no. It doesn't mean that water is not my function. And they are dealing with that. There is that political committee he chairs. And by the minister, also Comrade Jacob, every Wednesday with every report. That's the accountability we see. But you could see Johannesburg and others who have said, fix the leaks. When we say fix the leaks, what do we mean? There are two elements. One element is that the pipes or the distributive network is old. Whatever you can do, maybe the technology is an AC pipe, already is gone on the ground. You have to replace. Replacement is a solution. But then there's a refurbishment where the other infrastructure, the condition, you can be able to do that. That's how you deal with the issues of non-revenue water. And in terms of that particular answer that I thought I should be able to do. It will also boil down to the other question the other brother asked about wastewater treatment works. In our own instruments we used, there's something called green drop. The green drop is about the function of the effluent, the wastewater that you actually discharge back into our rivers. In the main, the reports in South Africa indicate that there's been a deterioration. There is a lot of pollution coming from industries, coming from wastewater treatment plants from the municipalities, but also from agriculture and the other users that are there. We are polluting more water. And the more we pollute water, what does it mean? It means the biodiversity, the hohakis are going to be affected. We'll have your algae, you'll have your icing, you have your lettuce that are there. And Minister assigned Deputy Minister Sitlulu, he has opened up here a polluter register. There's a task team that is there this morning. Our own ministry engagement with municipalities here. But it's not only the question that you'll have an impact on environment, but it has an impact on the availability of water. Because to treat the water is going to be very expensive. Because you'll have to put more in terms of the design system of your plant. You have to put more chemicals. When it becomes very expensive to treat, what does it mean? The money is going to be passed over to the users. In other words, you will increase the issues of that. But I think the issue of pollution, the polluter pay principle is working. That municipality in Mpumalanga called Msugaliko, where I come from, we went to court. They were fined 300 million. Another municipality also in Mpumalanga, I don't know why they do them from home first, so that we can go to other provinces. They've also been fined. Tabachwe, you would count a number of them. And we're not going to negotiate with polluters. Polluters must stop. If they don't stop, they are going to pay. That's why in many areas we've introduced what we call it waste discharge charge system. In other words, there's a premium that you must pay. In as much as we're supporting your municipalities here, Comrade Premier, but the pollution will have to stop. So supporter on the other side, but on the other side, it will be a carrot and a stick approach. One day I was sent by Comrade Minister, I was in Hartis. In Hartis, a small municipality called Matibeng. The Hartis dam is so dirty. That municipality's water is brackish. They don't even have the money to treat. And the waste is coming from Gauteng. That's why the minister said there must be a discussion so that we don't pollute downstream. And then we're polluting Free State, we're polluting Northern Cape, and Northern Cape is polluting Namibia, affecting the relations. Last week, minister was dealing with a problem in Durban. Someone from Maritzburg and those municipalities, they polluted water in Durban. And Durban actually had to reduce the water treatment and minister to call meetings in the middle of the night that Umgeni must be able to respond. Pollution is one of our biggest problems. But it does not mean we don't have the technology. We do have the technology. Every drop of water that is available, we are going to treat it. But when we treat it, it's going to come at a cost. The cost must not be borne by the most vulnerable. On climate change is a phenomenon that is here. It has two aspects in our case. Either it will be flooding, like is happening in the Eastern Seaboard. More rains will be found in KwaZulu-Natal, in the Eastern Cape and certain parts closer to the seashore. Then there's going to be flooding. And how we build, in terms of building the infrastructure from an engineering point of view, we need to be at a different level, build much better. At a particular point, you'll remember the aqueducts in KwaZulu-Natal carrying more than 300 million liters of water. They were washed away. How we build it. In other words, we must be building as if the infrastructure we're building in the sea. But when it rains, it's a very good opportunity for us as a water-scarce country. We'll be able to catch the water mostly into our own dams. We're building more dams. We'll also be doing artificial recharging of aquifers. In other words, we must actually take the groundwater, the water that is flowing, then we push it to aquifers underground so that we don't lose that particular water. Minister is also promoting rainwater harvesting. It's cool that each in every household must have a water tank. Not a water tank, I mean a static tank. Not the one you normally call it J something. It's a company, that one. I don't want to use it here. It's a static tank. Each and every household must actually do rainwater harvesting. That's the advent of having more rains. And that's the time we must catch water. The downside is drought. When there is drought, it has devastating impact. You saw it in Nelson Mandela Bay, close to 7 years. In Cape Town, no water for a longer period. You go to Maluti Apofongo Kwako, it rains somewhere else. When there is a drought, we'll have to be able to implement these measures Minister was talking about. How do we do rationing? How do we manage the entire system so that at least we'll be able to deal with those? But when there is drought, there's also the positive side. Do you know that when there's drought, we'll be able to actually do desilting of our dams? Remove the silt that is there. That's the time for even operation and maintenance. That's what you could be able to do. We do have a clear climate mitigation strategy. As a department, as a sector, you can look at our national water resource strategy. Version 3 is clearly covered there. On acquiring other sources, Comrade Dada has spoken about it. One of the things in South Africa we want to increase the mix by reuse. You know the wastewater must not go to waste. Comrade Dada has a plant here. It's a 410 megaliters, Northern Works. Why should it dispose all the effluent? Instead of treating that water to be the right quality. When it is right quality, other industries will use it, even for domestic use. I know people, Minister, might say, but we can't use sewer water to drink. But the reality in South Africa is that there is a system that is integrated. You go to Tshwane, Hammanskraal, we call it Rooiwal. Sewer comes in, it gets treated there, it gets to a river. That river is called what? Apis. From Apis, it goes to a dam called Leeuwkraal. In the Leeuwkraal, this is where the effluent is. Then you drag it. You drag it into timber treatment plant. Then you can be in a position to use. We can use wastewater more and more. That's the answer to say where the additional drop will come from. And it's not something new. It's happening internationally, happening in South Africa. Even in Maritzburg, it's happening. We do drink wastewater, but that is treated. The other water, where will it come from, the mix? Comrade Dada is correct. Gauteng, because of mining, thousands and a million and billions of liters are underground. The issue of water reclamation from mine water is the best technology to use. Therefore, we will not be running out of water as a country, but probably do we have the technology? The answer is yes. Whether the technology is expensive or not, we should not have a problem. I thought this issue around climate change must be put in context, including how water will come from. The issues of restrictions have been accounted for in the accountability framework. The issues of debt, Minister has spoken. She's overworking us. I'm protesting. Yesterday, I don't know how many meetings we took, but the last meeting last night was with my province where I come from, Pumala. They do owe water boards. The water boards, they are owed around 22 comma something billion rands, close to 23 billions. Minister has been clear even in her presentation. The user pay principle is non-negotiable. We want water boards to be paid, but municipalities are owed to. They must be paid because of their viability. Minister has met with 8 premiers already. With all the MECs responsible for local government and all those who are owing the municipalities, they have entered into issues of an agreement on how to pay. But ministers don't say only pay, but we're also saying, but what makes you not to pay? There is a support system. The support system, it says the infrastructure is not in a good condition. That's why the examples around how infrastructure must be fixed, how she's making water boards available to these municipalities. Mfuleni, Comrade Premier knows, we're actually supporting Mfuleni to put an SPV. Rand Water is coming with its capability in terms of the balance sheet, the know-how and everything. There's an equity ownership that is there. Rand Water will go to the market, replace all the old pipes and the distribution network, Mfuleni as an example. They lose 72% of the water. And that's what minister says. I don't want you to say you must pay because it's not sustainable. In as much as we wanted to actually have credit control, but how do we support them? Even here, minister has made Rand Water is available to work with Johannesburg Water. They are working together to turn around the situation. Then there's a credit control issue around the issues of putting proper meters. The billing systems must be working, is part of the support. Then we say ring fence the money, and so that the monies are not there. In our own case here, this municipality has money they get from the USDG. In the USDG, which is close to 2 billion, we've asked the mayor, supported by the premier, that 33% of the USDG belongs to water and sanitation. There is money from the water sales. And in other cases, we give money through RBIC, we give money through WISIC, including the MIG, which is not in areas for metros. In MIG, 50% must be able to go to issues of water and sanitation. Then the portion around O&M for the OPEX, we say minimum 10%. But you can't put 10% when you know that you have a backlog. Therefore, the issues around funding and the support that is being made, apart from the technical engineers that we give, the kind of the meetings that we do all the time in supporting the water partnership that the DG working with the World Bank, the platform that is here. And Premier has become our ambassador and champion. Because the biggest problems in South Africa is leaders who actually make a decision to do nothing about the problem. But this Premier, with his leadership, is very different. I thought I should deal with those issues, Comrade Minister and Comrade Premier.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity, Honorable Minister, Premier, MMC, MEC, Executive Mayor, Chairperson of Johannesburg Water, my Group Chief Executive, all protocol observed. There's 2 specific issues that affect Rand Water which were posed. One is we have raised issues last year. What have we done? Last year we indicated that some of the challenges that are there is the issue of leakages in municipalities. It's also the issue of high temperature, which is one of the challenges that we have. That's why we are here today. I think what we have done is we have met with municipalities. On the 19th, we attended the Water Service Authority Summit, where we raised issues that impact on water supply in our area of operation. We've also brought in, I think the minister did indicate, we brought in 150 million liters a day into the system on the 31st of August. We are going to be bringing in another 450 million liters by the end of this financial year. This is outside the number of pipelines, the maintenance, the major maintenance that we did between June and July earlier this year. So we are doing really something, and we meet on a daily basis at 8 o'clock. It used to be twice a day. We meet on a daily basis. Our Chief Operating Officer chairs a meeting where he meets with municipalities. In particular, he meets with metros, where they look at challenges in the system and then decide how they deal with those challenges. And those meetings assist us a lot in terms of distribution of water. But I think whilst we appreciate that the challenges are within municipalities, but let me just give you numbers. Rainwater at maximum, we provide 5.2 billion liters a day in Gauteng and few municipalities. In that 5.2 billion liters a day, municipalities lose about 48%, which is approximately 50%. Therefore, they lose 2.5 billion liters a day. However, we are saying, whilst there are challenges in municipalities, the Deputy Minister Mahlobe has indicated that we are not folding our arms and pointing fingers at municipalities. We continuously reach out to municipalities. That's why we have an approach which is supported by the provincial government, thanks to the Premier and the MEC of Kokta, in Mfuleni, where we say we want to partner with municipalities. Because we are listed on the stock market, on the debt side of the stock market, we are saying we'll be able to use our balance sheet to raise money in the market to assist municipalities to work together. And we ring fence. I hear that the mayor is also agreeing with us that we must ring fence water and sanitation revenue so that we then make sure that you ensure that the security of supply of water in the system. The other question was the question about, of course, the minister and the DM indicated that we have a 38 billion rand budget for the next year, for the next 5 years. That thing changes every year depending on the kind of work that we do. So we really committed to improving our infrastructure. We also introduced the biggest reservoir of its kind in the world, which is Vlakfontein Reservoir. It was launched last year in February. So we're also improving our storage capacity. We have approached several municipalities to also assist them as a service provider or in a form of a special purpose vehicle. So we really go out of our way to assist municipalities because we regard ourselves as part of the value chain. The issue about, there's a specific issue, question I think was asked by Julie about we should indicate the amount per municipality that the municipality owes us. The amount that is owed by municipalities in total to Rainwater, as we speak now, is 7.3 billion rand. That is owed by municipalities. We, however, interact with municipalities. Yesterday we had a meeting at 7. The minister is really working us very hard, the minister. I couldn't even go to church yesterday. And also the MEC is also overworking us, MEC and the Premier. But I think it's because we regard ourselves as animals of state and we work together. We don't point fingers at each other. Instead we work together with the Premier, we work together with the MEC, we work together with municipalities, Johannesburg Water also, so that we ensure that there's safe security of water supply. Of course, there are challenges, but we don't think it's appropriate for us to point fingers and not work as a government to ensure that we mitigate against those challenges that we have. The plans that we have as Granddaughter, we must indicate the launches that we have had. We actually have launched programs that were already in preparation for 2030. So we are very far ahead in terms of where we want to go as Granddaughter. And the current challenges are actually almost undermining those plans that we have, or those launches that we did, the programs that we have launched. However, we are confident that working with these municipalities, the support of the Premier and the MEC and our Minister, will be able to ensure that there's security of water in Gauteng and in the respective municipalities. Thank you. I'm instructed by my mayor, because it's my immediate mayor. I don't have much choice but to adhere to that. And the Premier is also giving me this eye that I must do same. I must confirm that Johannesburg is not owing us, and that one is also not owing us. But other municipalities are struggling, but we'll get there. Ekurhuleni is also not, all the metros in Gauteng are not owing us. And thanks to the Premier, the MEC, and the respective executive mayors for their support, and the Minister and the TM. Thank you.
Thanks so much. I will attempt to deal with few issues that are remaining. But I want to give this context first. We convened a local government summit in the last 2-3 weeks to adopt what we said it's a 9-point plan, so that each and every municipality across the province can agree to the basics that bind all of us. And one area that was an area of deep concern was the infrastructure, because our infrastructure is not only aging. I think we are the generation that is inheriting an infrastructure that is aging at a very faster pace. So we needed to ensure that the infrastructure is improved in a manner that it assists us to limit leakages and many other things. But we are quite convinced now that each and every municipality is reviewing their budget so that this part of infrastructure can be attended to. So I'm trying to respond to Grant on how thinly spread we are in terms of our infrastructure resources. The second area, which is very important to us, is the user pay principle. I think we want to emphasize that point. If everyone that is using water is paying for water, our challenges will be minimum. But if there are people that are using water and are not paying for it, it creates serious problems. So we want to shield the poor. We are working on introducing what we call an indigent register. That is live, that is linked to all municipalities, so that those that are genuinely unemployed and those that are genuinely can't afford, we can be in a position to identify, register them, and give them service. We are coordinating that aspect as a province, so that we remove the poor and confront those that need to pay for services. So this is a very important task that we are trying to really manage and assist municipalities so that we can protect those that can't afford to pay. So the message to the residents of Gauteng is simple. We have to reduce the consumption of water at a faster pace. If we can't do that, the system will not be in a position to carry us for a longer period. So it's in our best interest that the consumption of water is reduced. There is a red line that Rand Water is giving us. We are not only above the red line, we are far above the red line. So we need to just go back towards that red line. The last time we were at least reasonably below that red line was in 2023. It's an indication that is doable, that we can